So, Mike, is being an Idenics practitioner satisfying work?
Very satisfying for me.
Yeah.
It's one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. It's something I wouldn't want to give up. Even as things would get a lot going on, other things to take care of. It's something it's so satisfying that it's something very special. And I've done a lot of the Idenics processing myself, especially during the research years. I was pretty much the beginning John Galusha's research guinea pig in a lot of ways.
Sure.
So I probably on my own had just from him more Idenics processing than most people ever do, just
Hmm.
even in those days in the beginning. And I resolved a lot of issues that I'd been working on for years that hadn't been. So I had great personal gains from that work. But the greatest gain I ever had was in learning how to apply it. In other
Huh.
words, the training end of things. In other words, I was learning that as we went along. And one of the things that I've mentioned in probably more than one, I've mentioned in more than one video, being able to hear what the client is saying,
Mm.
the non-judgmental aspect, being there, trusting them, that sort of
Hmm.
thing. But it's not something that comes natural to people usually.
Hmm.
The only one I ever knew that was that natural to was my mentor, John Galusha.
Mm.
It wasn't that easy for me because when I would work with people, I still had my own thoughts coming up in my head, but I was able to at least recognize that that was my stuff.
Mm.
It had nothing to do with the guy in front of me. And I would just acknowledge it as mine. In other words, I just notice when those thoughts would come up and just kind of take, okay, that's mine, and then just get on with what I was doing.
Hmm. Sure.
And that's a very good handling for a lot of things without digging into them. You
Mm.
just notice when you're doing it because these were automatic behaviors.
Mm.
And I noticed it enough times to where the day finally came when it wasn't popping up anymore.
Hmm.
And I didn't have those kind of thoughts.
Hmm.
And it just wasn't her. And I was right there with the person, and I could hear everything. I didn't miss anything. And something happened with me that I don't know how to describe it, but it was like the best way I've been able to describe it is I disappear when I go into sessions.
Oh.
I don't know how else to explain it or describe it. It's kind of like I just disappear. I'm gone. But meaning that it's not me trying to figure anything out or I don't know.
Yeah,
It's like
you're
I'm
not
just
trying to
there.
draw attention to the practitioner. You're putting
I'm
all the
not even.
focus
I don't
onto
know
the
what I'm.
client.
Well, all my focus is on listening to them. I don't have anything going on in my. It was a state that I achieved.
Uh-huh.
From just not from anything other than from working with people.
Huh.
That's it's a very special. So when I work with people, I don't know how to explain it. It's a very pleasurable experience. Okay, I
That's
mean it's
interesting.
just
It sort of sounds a lot like they talk about, um, the higher states of meditation. I don't know if you've ever looked into any of this stuff, but one of the,
sure,
watching stuff online and stuff, you hear people talking about. Uh, it takes they try to extend the amount of time that they're in sort of a meditative state throughout the day. And at
right.
first you're lucky to achieve a couple of seconds, right? And then, I mean, you might, after years of weeks of study, you might grow this into minutes and hours. And it sounds basically like you get into, I mean, I know you said earlier that meditation is not part of Idenics, but it
Right.
sounds like you're getting into this meditative state where you're able to totally hear what the other person's talking about.
Kind of meditation. I think one of the purposes that on all types of meditations is to achieve something where you're without thought. Kind of
Okay.
the goal of meditation, without
Huh.
thought. And a lot of meditations, that's what one's looking for. It's
Sure.
just to get. And so if that's in that way, yes, when I work with people, I'm out of that kind of thought at least. Any kind of thought that I'm usually in to the point of where everything is just get what I'm doing. And my whole purpose as an Idenics practitioner is only one thing: get the person to look
Mm-hmm.
and keep them looking at what they're looking at long enough for them to keep their nose in it long enough for them to fully inspect what's there, you
Right.
know,
Right.
stick with it, help gently nudge them sometimes, that kind of a thing,
Sure.
you know. But in other words, that's what I'm completely engrossed in, and nothing else is coming in. So it's for some reason it's very pleasurable. So it answers your question. Yes, it's a great experience. But
Right. Right.
I got it from working with people.
Right.
You
Right.
know, a
Can
lot of
this be taught? You
just
know,
like you mean the Idenics itself? Sure, we've
well,
been
both.
training
Both.
people.
Yeah.
Right, we've been training people since 1988, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We started this in 86, and it
Mm.
was pretty much just John and I. We had some of our practitioners that we tried to train before that, but we were having difficulties because we couldn't communicate this kind of an application. And a lot of them, even though they had the questions and understood some of the mechanics, they weren't trusting the client enough. We didn't have that part of it, that part of the application,
Mm.
until at the time we saw that they couldn't get the results that John was, and were reverting back to other practices that they were doing. And then that's when we started looking at this application, something
Mm-hmm.
that he did, and that's who I learned it from. But it wasn't natural to me. He was just like that.
Okay.
That's the way the guy was. But I had to work at it, and anybody that works at it, they can do it too. It just takes practice. Okay,
Sure. Sure.
that's all. I mean, give you an example. I once had this incredible mechanic. I mean, this guy could do things that you would think were like superhuman. You know, like you bring the car over at night to his place, and he'd just stick his hand in there without even looking and find the problem. How do you do that? He didn't even think about stuff like that.
Huh.
I was just sitting there, well, how do you do that? Well, it's enough familiarity from doing this over and over and over again over
Right.
years and years. He just developed certain abilities,
Sure.
not anything he was taught, just from doing it, becoming better at it. And I think that's what I did with this, and that's what other people do.
Yeah.
So yeah, we train people. We've been training, but we started training people on a specific course when we had enough information to do that in 1988.
Got it. Got it. And
Training
is it hard? Is
practitioners.
it hard to learn?
Um, it's takes some time. You know, is it hard? No, it's not hard if the person has a purpose to do it, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, if they want to do it, it's that's the hardest part is learning it. You know, just learning to be able to operate that way with somebody without your own mind getting in the way, and that just takes practice. As far
Okay.
as is we've developed the subject enough um, with procedures and questions and things that we can train somebody on those things,
Mm-hmm.
and then but it's a matter of them just working with people, how competent they become,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
But
no, it's not.
you don't have to be in like this Zen state to work with people.
No, of course not.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
no, it's just like I mean, whatever that is just something that's come to me from doing it for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. And it's not something I don't think anybody else, I think anybody else could do too, if it just with some practice. But when we do the training, most of the practitioners, once they're through, if they're applying what they've just learned, they
Mm-hmm.
can get better results with people than these people have gotten before. They may not be able to operate and work as quickly and as fast and efficiently as I can, but I've been doing it for 40 years.
Sure.
That's all. I'm just good. But they right off the bat can get results, better
Oh, good.
results for people. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's not, and that's why they stick with it.
Right.
'Cause if they didn't, people would quit. You know, it's the same thing for people that receive it. One of the things that we've done is what I started doing, and this is since we started working with people over the phone. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard to do it before people came out here. You know, I just have to give them enough information and answer their questions to where they were confident enough.
Hmm.
to give it a shot. But over the phone, I've been able to just do a free introductory session on people. And a lot of times, just in one free introductory session, they get something enough done to where they know this, I'm getting somewhere.
Right.
See,
Huh.
and somebody new at it, there's enough going on to where they can get results right away. And then at that point, it's the same thing. Once a person's getting results, then they just get better at it.
Got it. Sure.
And that's on both ends. Okay. I mean, look, the client, their whole purpose, their whole job, I should say, whole job in an identity session is to look. That's it,
Right.
right? And how do they? Everybody can do that to some degree. Some people do it better than others,
Hmm.
right? But everybody to some degree can do it. But how do they get better at that? I once had somebody say, well, shouldn't we drill them? No,
Mm.
don't drill them on looking. Otherwise, you do that, you put their attention on that, guess what they're going to be doing? Thinking. Just say
Oh.
to somebody, try not to think of a bus. What are you doing? You're thinking of a bus. It's silly. So, so you don't want to, it's kind of a little catch-22 there.
Sure.
So people get better at it by doing it.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
So I go over a few things and then we just get going. Well, I'm not sure if don't worry about it. Let's just, you don't want them thinking, you just want them to do it. And how do
Right.
they get better? Doing it. And the more
Both
they
as a
do,
client and as a practitioner.
yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. And if the practitioner's doing their job, it'll help the client to be able to look better. For
Right.
example, one thing is something that I call validation, right? In that when somebody takes a look at something and they get somewhere, what they just did was obvious, was looking.
Right.
Whoa, and whatever they did, the most, and it may be all my little explanations about looking and it's this and it's that, but they did that right then.
Right.
So what do I say to them at that point? Whatever you were doing, well done. Well done on your effective looking. Well done. Whatever they did got them somewhere, and that's what I want them to continue to do. So if you want them to continue, you point it out. Well done on that. Keep it up. Oh, okay. Great. Because that's how they get better at it, from just doing it. Okay. It's the same thing with a practitioner. How do you get to Zen, better states to be able to hear the guy? Doing it. Practice. That's it. Sand the floor, paint the fence,
Right.
just do it. Just keep
Wax
working
on,
on it.
wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Just do it.